Thank you, Madam Speaker. Domestic and family violence is a national shame, and in New South Wales there are around 30,000 reports of domestic violence made to police each year, and 50% of these go unreported. Across Australia, more than one woman a week dies at the hand of an intimate partner, and intimate partner violence is the leading contributor to death, disability and ill health in Australian women between 15 and 44 years of age. In the context of all the upheaval and tearing apart of the family home that follows domestic violence, women's access to ongoing employment, the key determinant of their ability to save themselves and their children from future violence, is on a precarious precipice. It's a terrible crime with intergenerational economic consequences for families, victims and survivors. It also causes poverty and homelessness, creating a lower standard of living to all those affected. The sheer large number of women affected by domestic and family violence also negatively impacts business productivity across Australia. Over a decade ago, domestic violence cost Australian businesses around $175 million each year, with employee absenteeism, permanent loss of labour and employee deaths all contributing factors. Without any effective intervention, this figure has been projected to rise to $500 million in the next 5 years. As Shadow Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault and Shadow Minister for Small Business, and a former Managing Director of a small business myself, I know very well and first-hand the impact of this horrendous crime on people who work in our businesses and organisations and on our productivity as a state. We must all act to intervene to stop domestic and family violence. And most importantly, while we are addressing prevention, early intervention, behaviour change and the legal consequences for perpetrators, we need to do much more to help victims recover their lives. Domestic violence leave is a key tool that we have as legislators and the government has as an employer to act to assist victims and survivors of this terrible crime. Former Australian of the Year, Rosie Batty, has said, the ability to maintain your employment, keep your job, it helps secure somewhere to live. It helps you to have that ongoing working contact with your colleagues. It's a really important part of your journey. And when we think of the impact to all workers when they lose their job, the loss of self-esteem to someone who has already suffered violence and the impact of that on their self-esteem, it's just an escalation. Labor acknowledges that many employers are already paving the way in the area of domestic violence leave, with major companies like Telstra, the NAB, Virgin Australia, IKEA and Blundstone Boots, to name a few. Through their actions, these employers are helping to reduce the stigma that often accompanies domestic violence. And of course it was the former Labor government in 2010 which introduced domestic violence leave for public sector's workers. In the budget estimates process earlier this year, I asked every minister for information about the way their agencies were implementing paid domestic violence leave. It presented a confusing and disjointed response from the government. Most agencies gave the approved standard lines that each agency is responsible for implementing New South Wales government policy. The information sought is not collected centrally. I asked myself, why is this the case? Then I read some of the other responses from ministers who came clean and actually admitted that in, for example, 3 out of 5 of their agencies, domestic violence leave hadn't been implemented. The implementation of domestic violence leave goes beyond the benefits of giving life back to victims of domestic violence, to help them get their lives back on track, to help them to continue to protect their self-esteem while protecting their right to employment. It also asks employers important questions, to look at their policies around domestic violence and ask themselves some basic questions as, how does domestic violence leave get disclosed to the employer? Who does it get disclosed to? How do they protect that information? What are they doing to address discrimination against victims of domestic violence? What are they doing to ensure adequate access to employee assistance programs, financial, psychological, legal and medical help? What are they doing about ensuring that perpetrators do not access records of victims? How are they protecting private information about their employees and their clients from perpetrators both within and outside of their organisation? And how are they ensuring that perpetrators can't get allies to assist them in abusing women? And what training have they given to staff to help them assist both staff and clients in responding to domestic violence? The union movement has already advocated for more than 1.6 million workers to have access to paid domestic violence leave. However, it needs to be a universal right. Thank you.
Madam Secretary.